Welcome back. We're still with Talk's international editor Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, let's talk about two-tier woke police forces. You've seen the lefty exodus from Twitter, or X as it's now called, because Trump's first buddy, the world's richest man, Elon Musk, owns it. And of course, Elon has the temerity to be sort of right-wing, right of centre, and therefore they're all leaving. Oh, this is toxic. It's a toxic social media site. I mean, I don't mind lefties doing it. You know what they're like. They love to polish their halos and tell us how wonderful. We're off to blue sky. It's much nicer there. You know, I'm left wing. I've got the Guardian here. You know, all that crap. But what does concern me is police forces are now doing it. This was already on North Wales Police Force. Their Chief Constable, Amanda Blakeman, said they will no longer use X. And by the way, you know, whatever you think of X or Twitter, it is a very useful communication tool for police forces to alert populations about warnings and whatever's going on. But anyway, North Wales Police has withdrawn because we felt that the platform was no longer consistent with our values, and therefore we have withdrawn our use of it. The West Midlands Police have reduced their posts on X by 95%. Lancashire Constabulary cut its usage by 3/4, and Derbyshire have stopped posting on Twitter on August the 12th, and so on and so forth, because, you know, because what I really care about with police forces, I don't care whether they solve crimes or whether they keep the streets safe or, you know, whether or not they catch the bad guys. What I care about is their values. You too, I should imagine, Isabel.
You know what I'd love to do? I would love to just get in a room with the decision makers in each of these forces and challenge them as to what exactly they mean by that. What do they mean that they're coming off Twitter because the platform doesn't share their values? It's a platform. It's not a person. It's not a human. And it's there. In the case of the police, they're not there to make political comments, are they? They're there to report if they're using X at all. It's to say, well, this is happening and we're warning you on this, or, you know, just to report the facts, right? And I don't see how values has got anything to do with it whatsoever.
And of course, lots of celebrities are leaving. This is a funny... So, you know, we all know about Trump derangement syndrome. Well, the new disease is Musk derangement syndrome. The Oxford professor, Dorothy Bishop, she's a neuroscientist. She's quit the Royal Society. The Royal Society, of course, being our preeminent society of scientists. She's quit the Royal Society because Elon is a fellow member of that society, and she said, I just felt that having him in the Royal Society seemed such a contradiction of all the values of the Royal Society. She accused Musk of modelling himself on a Bond villain. I mean, what a load of crap. I mean, God spare us, halo-polishing morons droning on about their values. And Dorothy, along with so many other left-wing academics, proved that you can pass all the exams you like, you can be an Oxford professor, but you can be as stupid as hell.
Yeah, I mean, how these people see fit to kind of lecture and take a kind of sanctimonious, holier-than-thou stance over somebody who is, you know, arguably the most successful person in the world. I find it astonishing. It's so arrogant, isn't it? It's everything they pretend not to be, isn't it? The arrogance of that, the pomposity of it, it just knows no bounds.
Absolutely. Just before we move on, there's one last point I want to make about all these police forces quitting X, Twitter. I hate calling it the one thing. I'm a big fan of Elon Musk, but I wish he didn't. I wish he didn't change the name to X. It's annoying. But anyway, let's call it Twitter for the hell of it. But the last thing I want to say is that these police forces, along with the establishment, along with the government, with the Labour government, etc., their big beef with X is that they say it was used to communicate misinformation in the Southport riots after the Southport killings and, of course, the summer riots generally. You know, I don't think you can blame a method of communication on a riot, on disturbances. As I always say, to blame, and this is what Starmer does, he says the cause of the Southport riot and the subsequent summer riots was X. People spreading misinformation on Twitter. That's like saying the poll tax riots, the cause of the poll tax riots was the telephone, because the rioters phoned each other to meet in Trafalgar Square. Absolute nonsense. And by the way, if we're talking about spreading misinformation, let's talk about the misinformation spreaded about the Southport defendant, the suspect, by the police, by the authorities. You know, they were pretty economic with the truth about the guy in the frame, weren't they?
I mean, we've got to be so careful, and it's tedious and frustrating to have to be so careful because there is criminal proceedings underway. But what we can say is that by no means was X the only platform, social media-wise, in which people were sharing all sorts of information, a considerable amount of which was very controversial and condemned, and may well turn out to have been quite truthful. We don't know. We need to wait for all the details to come out as to what really happened. But there's been an awful lot of premature judgment from on high about all of this, and suppression of legitimate debate that would not, in fact, derail any trial. But actually, they've got us all frightened to even have a normal conversation. You can tell that I'm kind of skirting around things that I really want.
We have to, Isabel. We have to be careful. I agree.
Yeah, we absolutely do. But I mean, a lot of the so-called misinformation that was spread was actually on other platforms. I mean, are the police withdrawing from any use of Facebook? Because that was one of the primary platforms on which people shared all sorts of horrible things and said horrible things that they shouldn't have, and perhaps encouraged each other to go out and take to the streets. And, you know, neither you nor I are saying that's good or even okay. But it's not a reason to stop using a very, very useful tool. Yeah. I mean, the truth is that many X is primarily in politics is used by sort of more, I don't know, more newspaper writers, and you know, it's not the most popular platform for a lot of people, is it? Facebook is still very, very prominent in that. So I don't know why special case is being made for X, really.
Yeah, and this government's ongoing feud with Elon Musk is ill-advised, to say the least. It's good to be friends with the most, as you said, the most successful businessman in the world, the greatest tycoon on the face of the earth. And, you know, Peter Mandelson is saying that we've got to stop this. We've got to be mates with this guy, not his enemy. But Keir Starmer, he's an ideologue. He's a socialist. So are all his cabinet. And you know what socialists do? They hate successful businessmen, but particularly successful businessmen that they can't tax to the hilt and give all the money to the public sector because he's in another country. When we come back, we're going to talk about Kemi Badenoch. She seems to have woken up to the fact that successive governments haven't done too well on the migrant crisis front. Well done, Kemi. Welcome to the club.